Hello, and thank you for joining me here in this beautiful parish church of ours. I'm so happy that we have these few minutes to spend together. And do you know what this is called? Do you know what I'm doing with it? It's called the sanctuary lamp, and I was just lighting the candle inside. The sanctuary lamp lets us know when we come into our churches, lets us know where the sanctuary is, that sacred space where Jesus himself is present to us in the most blessed sacrament. The sanctuary lamp helps guide the way towards the heart of the church. So I'm going to let this right up where we can see it from all the church doors and all the places and corners of our parish church. And it allows all of us to know how to find our way when we come to Mass, to find our way to Jesus who is present to us in the most blessed sacrament. It allows us to know that he is here in the great gift of the Eucharist, hidden in the tabernacle in our churches, who allows us to draw near to him, not just in spirit, not just in the far reaches of our hopes and our dreams, but in the very intimacy of knowing him in the flesh, to receive him in the most blessed sacrament. Now, when we enter into our parish churches and we find that sanctuary and we come for Holy Mass, I hope that you come with your mom and dad, your brothers and sisters, maybe your grandmother and grandfather, maybe some of your friends too. And I hope that you're sitting there with your hands folded and listening and watching quietly as all the different things are taking place. We see the priest as he comes in procession into our parish church. He makes his way to the altar as he enters into the sanctuary and kisses the altar, reverences it. That place where Christ Jesus offers us the very sacrifice of the Mass. And as we're listening quietly, we hear the words of the Bible. We hear the words of the Old Testament, Jonah and the whale, King David dancing, or King Solomon building great temples. And we listen to the disciples, the apostles who followed Jesus and were sent out on mission to proclaim the good news of the gospel, the good news of our faith. And we hear, of course, from Jesus himself as he invites us to come near to him. Let the children come to me. As he cures the sick, heals the blind, and shows us the way to the Father. And perhaps when you've come into the church, you've been able to make your first Holy Communion already. Maybe you've already been able to receive that great gift of the Eucharist. And perhaps at Mass you help the priest. Maybe you're one of those boys or young men who serve at the altar. You get vested in the white alb or maybe a cassock and surplice. And maybe you're thinking about priesthood yourself, how to serve God's people in our churches, in our parishes, in the sacred priesthood. Or maybe you're one of those beautiful girls or young women who read from our readings or help prepare for our Masses, who help beautifully sing the great hymns and songs of praise, like the voices of angels that sing the very joy and celebration of God's life in our midst. And maybe you're thinking about religious life or becoming a religious sister or nun. And I think of those great sisters here in our diocese who teach in our schools and serve in our parishes, who assist our elderly and assist our poor, who do such great work in prayer and sacrifice in our monasteries and convents. I think of even those sisters who made this stole for me and offered it as a gift at the time of my ordination. And so when we come to participate in the Mass, we can be united in our vocations and in our prayers to the great sacrifice of Christ at the altar. Christ Jesus, who allows himself to be present to us in the simple gift of the most holy Eucharist. When we come to Mass, we give of our simple gifts, the simple offering of our work, of our very lives. And Christ Jesus receives that gift and makes of it a great gift that he gives unto us in his flesh and blood. Christ Jesus takes our simple gifts of bread and wine and makes them, changes them in their very core and their very substance into his flesh and blood, and we can receive that gift. just as Christ Jesus upon the cross gave from his heart, flowing forth all the great love, all the great life that allows us to know that we are united with him. And not just in a spiritual sense, but in a physical sense, in the great mystery of the Eucharist. And like I mentioned, sometimes it's hidden. We can't see Jesus in the Most Holy Eucharist. It still looks like bread and wine. But the reality is that it has already changed by his words spoken by the priest. This is my body, this is my blood. And we receive him. And there have been these times in the history of the church, great Eucharistic miracles, where people were actually able to see the face of Jesus in Holy Communion. Maybe you've been to adoration, where your grandmother, your grandfather, or maybe your aunt or uncle, mom or dad, brother or sister have brought you to church. And there's a time where the monstrance, this beautiful golden circle holding the Eucharist for us to adore. And it's happened that sometimes people have seen with their own eyes that which we see with the eyes of faith, the very face of Jesus himself. Or other times where that simple host was seen to be like flesh and blood, the very flesh and blood that Christ Jesus offered to us on the cross, so that we may receive him and be united with him. He makes himself part of us so that we can be part of God himself. We can be united to God, that is, united with him in the flesh and in the spirit. And so I'm so happy that we're able to pray here together. And I invite you to pray well this weekend and every weekend when you come into your parish churches. And look for that beautiful sanctuary lamp so that you know where the sanctuary is, so you know where to find Jesus in the tabernacle. And so I know that all of our parish priests look forward to seeing you at Mass. And I know that Jesus himself is eager that you receive him in the flesh and blood, in the gift of the Eucharist. God bless you. God be with you. And I'm so happy we were able to spend this time today together. And I invite you to rejoice in the gift of the Most Holy Eucharist, Jesus in our midst.